Reginald awakes to the pounding procession of his own life. So many faces and so many funerals, practical skill and aches and pains that aren't anymore. He sits up in the quiet room and feels about. There's something on his head, cloth and metal. He peels it off and looks around. The lights are on dimly, and there's a great stillness in the air. It's night. He recognizes Kutha as the main component of the metal on whatever this strange headdress was, but puts it aside as he notices something. His arms. They are unscarred. One of the accidents that nearly claimed his life had left a series of small white scars along his arms. They are pristine now. He opens and closes his hands. There is no creaking or pain. He stretches every part of his body. There are cracks as if he had been still for days, if not weeks. Perhaps he had been. Then he throws off the cover of the blankets and swings his legs out of bed. The sensations are almost overwhelming, yet he has been through much and pushes through with ease. So this is the result of a healing coma? It's exceptional. All the small pains and burdens and discomforts of his age had faded as if they had never existed. His mind runs sharp and quick as he steps around his bed, and he freezes when he gazes at the window. The darkness outside has rendered it into a black mirror. He is young, clearly and recognizably so. So that's what they did. The old Reginald is dead and gone, and he's just some impersonator in his restored carcass. Of course. The family line both ends and continues because there's more pain in store. Whatever sick deity or cruel spirit thought of this touch of damnation is surely one of the worse. The turning of a handle causes him to turn and behold one of the soldiers off the Dauntless. "Ah, Engineer Pike, good to—" "No," he says. "I beg your pardon? I'm not him anymore. They made a fuck toy out of his corpse and holding his memories," he says with a choke. "No, you're not. How would you know? What do you know about this?" He spits out, gesturing to himself. "A fair amount. I'm the one that's been speaking to the doctors and reporting things back to the Dauntless. Not only are you still yourself, but even if the recollector there had somehow failed, there are a few methods to retrieve lost memories." "But how do I know I'm still me?" Reginald asks. "Same way you do when you wake up from a nap or a night's rest," the soldier says before reaching under a chair near the door. He pulls out a bag. "Here, we had a gun slipped under your pillow. Get dressed, store your mags, and follow me. We'll check you out, then hit up a late-night diner or something. You're probably hungry enough to dumpster dive at this point." The soldier does have a point. He hadn't been this hungry since his last extended hospital stay. They'd had him on the drip, and there had been nothing but acid in his gut. Not exactly pleasant. The soldier leaves the room and gives him some privacy to peel himself out of the paper gown and dress himself. He ignores the scratchy feeling of the standard issue pants past the boxers. He's oversensitive and not going to get anything done moping and whining about things. T-shirt, shoulder holster, jacket, socks, and boots, pistol in the holster, and spare magazines in the small pockets inside the reinforced jacket. "Come on," the soldier says as he leaves the room. "So what's going on? I'm barely out of my teens now." 20 years old. Commander Herbert Jameson also underwent a similar procedure and is somewhere between 12 and 15. He doesn't look like he's old enough to drive. You're lucky. You just got healed rather than needing your life saved. He's also still legally married 100 times over. "Poor bastard," Reginald thinks out loud. "To the monster from Alien," the soldier says, and Reginald nearly trips in shock. "What?" Turns out that we had a sort of first contact before the probe, some kind of mind projection into our part of the galaxy. We got an impression of them and they found us at the same time, hence a few science fiction stories that got almost everything wrong and were massively popular. "How the hell does a man marry a xenomorph?" Reginald straight out asks. "He was our boy sent to poke the hornet's nest known as an arrangement system. There was some serious political horseshit, a conspiracy, and he dove out a window about a mile up into the sky. Bounced when he hit a rooftop and was barely rushed to the hospital in time for the same thing you got, but more intense. He's made a full recovery, but his balls were almost sucked back up into him," the soldier says, and Reginald snorts in amusement before checking out his own. "They're back. Huh. Maybe I'll keep them this time." He notes. "Here." The soldier says, handing a small bottle of hand sanitizer out. Reginald holds his hand out and gets a few drops in return. "Germophobic?" "Only in hospitals," the soldier replies. What's your name? Reginald asks. Koa. He answers, and Reginald gives him an odd look. It's Hawaiian. Oh, what's your last name? He asks to make conversation as they arrive near the front desk. Jackson, I'm mixed. Koa answers as the computer scans them and the appropriate technical paperwork is projected in front of them. Reginald scans through it and puts his hand into a bioscanner plate to affirm his consent. So what did that diner look like? Like someone took a metric ton of stupid glowing rings from retro sci-fi stories and set off a bomb of them in a 50s roller diner. Whatever stuck was left where it was embedded and the rest cleaned up. Seriously? Reginald asks, trying to picture that. Seriously, they use holograms for most of them, though, so don't worry about borking your knee on a random ring. Koa remarks, leading Reginald out. The massive city on Centris is even more daunting in its huge tiers during the night, as the natural light and city lights are all either off or dimmed as appropriate. It's like a great sleeping thing. So where is it? A couple blocks away. Had you woken up during the day or sat still, we'd have brought the food to you. Koa explains, and Reginald smirks in response. There's more of that feel of a city in this city than I've ever had before, and I spent a few years in Tokyo. The weight of all the people and infrastructure to keep it together, Koa says, and Reginald shakes his head. No, that's not it. But that's close, I think, Reginald remarks, and Koa nods. Right, well, let's get something to eat. It's not much further now, he says, leading Reginald around the corner towards a more brightly lit area. Oh, wow. Glad I'm not lactose intolerant because the sheer cheese in that look would flat out kill me if I was, he says, looking at the massive neon and pastel tile mess with an entire wall replaced with glass. There's a soldier in there waiting for them and a few other patrons. The soldier gives them a wave. He's familiar, Reginald notes. He's Nerd Squad, they're getting more infamous by the day. Koa remarks, and Reginald almost flinches. The sheer amount of madness those boys had been getting up to is insane. Reggie! Koa! Over here! I've just finished translating all this, the nerd says, waving a menu at them. Translating? Reginald asks, and the nerd grins. Yeah, basically I look up what all of this means. Now all of this is pretty light on the spices, but it's all easily translated. Time out, Reginald says, and the nerd gives him an odd look. What's your name? Amadi Nenga Adagoke, he says, and Reginald blinks. It's Yoruba, West African, Nigeria for me. You let me call you Reggie, and I'll let you call me Am, he says with a smile. Thank you, Am, Reggie says as he and Koa sit down. So what are we looking at? I'm just doing some nighttime poking around and heard you woke up. So I came here to get translating. As for the menu, the back is an all-day breakfast deal. Toasted breads and jams and some unseasoned sausages with a protein paste that's their version of eggs. The bottom three choices are basically stacks of tiny waffles with extra thick maple syrup. The differences being what you're having with them. Different types of sausages or the eggs, or if you're foregoing the syrup for jam. Page 1, Koa asks, opening his menu and seeing the foreign words with prices next to them. Left half when you open the menu is all to do with different ways to eat local potatoes. They go from, in order, chips, mashed, spiral-cut fries, normal fries, hash browns, roasted, boiled, stuffed, skinned, wedges, croquettes, and then raw. Locals really like their potatoes. Opposite page is what you can pair it with. Top square is sea life fish and shellfish. Next down is bird. Below that is red meat, followed by veggies on the next lowest, and drinks after that. Basically, it's build a dinner if you're not having breakfast. Are you telling me I can have surf and turf with roast potatoes on the side? Reggie asks eagerly. There's going to be a lot more potato than anything else, but yay. Pincher is what they call crab and creeper is shrimp. In the turf, best I can determine the Orn is basically a cow and Puffs is a sheep with Rooter being pig. Shrimp and lamb with roast potatoes. Even if they've never heard of seasoning, I want it, Reggie says. Good choice. I'm seeing how good the curly fries are myself. Not really hungry enough for more, Am remarks. I'll gamble with the breakfast menu, see how good it is, Koa says before the door into the diner opens. All three turn when a large, black-cloaked figure wanders in and walks up to them. The winds blow well, she says. Very well? Am remarks more out of bafflement than anything. Veiled? Reggie asks, looking up at her. Excellent, brothers. Things are going according to plan upon the dark approaches of... Hey! Another patron asks, and everyone turns to look. It's a Tret man gesturing furiously at the woman. Pretty sure that's your actual table, ma'am. You just confused the hell out of us, Koa says, and she looks from their baffled expression to the furious Tret, then back to them, then to the Tret. You heard nothing, she threatens. Just the wind blowing, I'm sure. Reggie snaps sarcastically to get the crazy lady away from them. So this is the right table? She demands loudly. Get out of here, you crazy bint! Get over here, you useless peon! Koa and the Tret snap at her at the same time, and she staggers back, looks from one to the other, and shuffles off to the Tret, who quickly, albeit quietly, starts raking her over the coals for her fuck-up. Their secret conversation begins in earnest, and it's a struggle to not accidentally overhear it. Well, that happened, Reggie remarks as Am stifles his laughter at the sheer absurdity of the situation. I'm not sure if I love or hate centrists so far, but I certainly something centrist. Koa remarks with an awkward grin as the server, a rabbit-eared woman with 4 arms known as a rabbi's, walks up with a notepad and pen. Hey, I'm Jenny, I'm single, and can I take your order? She asks, giving them an odd look. It's halfway between flirty and probing. The 6 with 2 double-sized sides, one of fried creepers and the other of seared puff shank, Reggie says, and she jots it down, giving him an odd look. Number 3 for me. Oh, and a large pitcher of water with 3 glasses. Am says as Koa just shrugs. Surprise me off the back menu, he says, and she jots it down slowly before leaning in somewhat. It's good that you're here. The time is coming quickly and we must move soon. The relevant details are here. She whispers as she bows to them, and a tiny data chip falls out of her cleavage to land on Koa's arm. Then she bounces into the back. 2 in a row? Koa asks before pocketing the chip. No doubt Sir Philip and his team will have a great deal of fun with it. What's with this city? Are we sure we didn't walk into a parody novel or something? This is the kind of goofy that Pratchett would be responsible for. Am asks with a completely bemused look on his face. Pratchett? Reggie asks, still processing the absurdity and wondering if this means his meal is not coming. Parody writer, damn good at his job before he departed. And yeah, I think what just happened is pretty much the beginning of Guards. Guards! It starts with a cultist going to the wrong secret order and giving half the right code because there's just so many of the damn things no one can keep them straight. Not even the cultists themselves. Am explains, and Reggie snorts in amusement at the thought. I'd like to see that, he says, and Am reaches into his jacket to bring out an old paperback with a bookmark that he pulls out of it. Here, it's my 5th reread in so many months. Good old Terry kept me sane and sober during the anti-gravity leg of the trip. Am admits placing the bookmark down in front of him. You're a gent, Reggie says as he opens it to the first page and meets the Discworld for the first time.